As a kid, I remember doing a lot of prep for Christmas. So anybody who's 50 or older remembers those thick Sears catalogs that used to come in the mail, and so I spent lots of time in the toy sections of these catalogs, circling the things that I would want, cutting them out, making sure they ended up in the right place so that Santa would know exactly what it is that I wanted. And so in my memory, it seems like untold hours of time poring over all of the things that I wanted. And so it was always in my head. And then I was amazed every year at all this stuff that would come, all of the great things that I had such excitement about, and the fact that all the things that I had hoped for were fulfilled. The generosity that was outpoured and that celebration of Christmas each year. Now, as I got older, those habits and my understanding of things began to change and evolve. And unfortunately, I began to realize that while I got so excited about all that was given at Christmas, I started to realize, to become aware, that all of the more basic stuff that my life depended on was given with even greater generosity all the time. The fact that I never had to question about, well, where's my food going to come from? What about the clothes that I'm wearing? What about medicine that I might have needed? What about school? All of those things were just given, given, given. And I didn't have to ask for them. I didn't have to go about highlighting them. I did not need to make a list of the things that I wanted that my life depended on, because my parents were always at the ready with such great generosity, always giving me those basic things. And as I became aware of how much my life was just provided for, I started to grow in gratitude. Now, certainly not grateful enough, but I keep growing, and the older I get, the more I seem to appreciate. And as I got older, I learned about all kinds of things that I was just oblivious to as a child, that my parents were always there providing for me. So I started to think more about it, and now, as a priest, I've looked back over a deeper spiritual understanding of that generosity, what's really going on. And there are various layers of what this really is about. One of the most basic layers is really a question of justice. I owe it to my parents to be grateful to them. It's a matter of justice that I should show that gratitude. It's part of how we are made, to give what is deserved. And so that is a basic reality that should mark our gratitude. But now I also realize that level of justice, that being grateful, that's just the start. Because as I grew further and I started to make the connection that it was not just a matter of I needed stuff and stuff was given, but rather it reflected a deeper relationship. It reflected a love for my parents that was after my good in the most basic material sense and in every other way. And so what I learned helped me become a better person. Not just somebody grateful, but I started to see that all that my parents had done helped shape me into becoming a more mature, a better person, becoming aware of what I had been given and the love behind it, so that from that I learned to love. Now, today's gospel is famously about gratitude. We have this miracle that Jesus works, healing these lepers, and only one that comes back. But today's gospel, as much as it is about gratitude, that is also just the start. Today's gospel is about a great deal more than gratitude. Think of the timing of what is happening. At the end of the gospel, Jesus says, "Your faith has saved you." Think about the timing of that. He was already healed of his leprosy. He was not healed because of his faith. It's not that Jesus said, "Because you believe in me, I heal you." That does happen in other miracles. But in this case, Jesus just healed because he saw the need of those 10 lepers. And so that healing was not connected to anything about them. It came only from the loving generosity of God who saw a need and he met that need. But only one of them, in realizing what they had been given unasked, what they had been given that went beyond what seemed possible, that what they had been given was more than they deserved, only one of them felt that movement of his heart that was gratitude. So only one of them comes back, and that one receives far more than just the physical healing. All 10 were healed, and all 10 were given things back in their life that they would have lost as lepers. But only one gets far more than just the physical reality of his life back. The one who hears the words of Jesus, "Your faith has saved you." Now, when he went back to say thank you to Jesus, it probably was just that initial awakening of justice, that, yes, I should thank you for a kindness that is done for me. But in his willingness to do that, in starting from gratitude, it opened the door for much, much more, and he received from Jesus far more than he expected. Your faith has saved you. So then when we learn these stories from the Scriptures, it's in part so that we grow in our awareness of who Jesus is, but just as much it's so that we can learn the lessons from the Scriptures and apply them to our lives today. And so we also are in a position where we have much to be thankful for. The obvious lesson for us in today's gospel is that we ought to have the gratitude of the one instead of the indifference of the other 9. But for us, like for him, gratitude is only scratching the surface. Like for me, as I described in my life, when I began to be grateful for what my parents gave to me, it opened the door for a transformation. It helped me to grow not just in the notion of being thankful, but to grow in the notion of love itself. Jesus then gives to us everything, and when we awaken to the generosity of God and we start with a gratitude that comes back to Jesus, then he says to us, "Your faith has saved you." So what does that mean exactly? As you look at your life and you ask the question, how has your faith saved you? What does that mean to you? In the end, it's the promise of God that gives us the hope of heaven, that our life will continue on in an eternity. That is the hope that marks our lives as Christians. But what Jesus is promising is not only a promise to be fulfilled in the future, but your faith can save you in ways that transform your life now, here. To help shed some light on this, I want to quote from Pope Francis. Pope Francis, in his document, The Joy of the Gospel, he talks about what it means to be saved. Your faith has saved you. He says, being saved means being set free from sin, sorrow, inner emptiness, and loneliness. Sin, sorrow, inner emptiness, and loneliness. To be saved is to be free of these realities. So think about those realities. Sin, sorrow, inner emptiness, and loneliness. These are plagues in our culture. These are enormous challenges for many people alive today. People who feel alone and empty, who feel loss and sorrow, who are afraid that there is no real purpose or meaning to their lives. We who have faith in Jesus, we should discover meaning in a way that others miss, so that our faith today means that we live with an understanding of our lives, because meaning comes from our connection to Jesus. So Jesus provides for our material needs, but that's only the start. what is deeper, what faith really means, is discovering meaning for daily life. So, for example, whenever we experience joy in our lives, it's a richer joy because we see Jesus as the source of that gift. When we experience the cross and we face suffering in some way, instead of it being meaningless, we who are saved can look at the cross and say, I walk with Jesus. Just as his suffering led to life, this suffering in my life can be transforming. Instead of indifference, instead of worry and doubt and fear and all of the things that can paralyze us, we look at the world's challenges and we see a spark of hope. And so we live differently because of our faith in Jesus. And when we live differently, then our lives become a better witness to the people around us. Jesus means that we never walk alone. It means that whatever happens, there is something greater that we cling to. That one leper, he discovered that physical health was just the beginning. The other 9 missed out. They missed out because they didn't take that first step of gratitude. And in missing the first step of gratitude, they remained unaware of all the rest that Jesus wants for them. And so ask yourself today, what does Jesus have ready for you? What does Jesus want to give to you that will strengthen your life and give greater purpose and meaning, a greater understanding to who you are, to what faith means, not just for the future, but for today? And if you don't know exactly what that is, then start with gratitude. Recognize that it is worth your effort to stop and turn to Jesus and acknowledge the things in your life that you have been given. Because for all of us, there is the experience of God's generosity. Maybe we can identify specific things that have changed in our lives. But for all of us, the fact that we woke up this morning and the sun is shining and the basic needs of our life are provided, those reveal to us the generosity of God. And for those things, we should be grateful. And when we start with that gratitude, it will open the door to so much more that Jesus wants to give to us. And so we learn the lesson of the one. And we say to Jesus that we are grateful for all he has done. And then with confidence, we can hear his voice that says, your faith has saved you. And with that freedom that comes from Jesus, we can navigate the struggles of our life, we can experience richer joys, and we can be witnesses to the world that too often lacks gratitude.